That is right, Matt. Nintendo has stepped in once again, and this really isn't going to stop anytime soon. If you're not aware, a let's see, developer named Winter Drake created a fan game called Breath of the NES. Nice title. I actually like that. And it was basically made on, and he made this fast. I don't know how he made this quickly, but during the Game Developers Conference that I believe took place like pretty much right after Breath of the Wild launched, Nintendo gave this talk about how they had this demo that was very much based off of the original Legend of Zelda for NES, but they basically, anytime they came up with an idea for Breath of the Wild, they put it into this prototype program to see if it would work. And this had things like, if you're trying to cross a river, you could like cut down a tree and use it as a bridge to cross over. And one thing they really did that was really cool during the event was they started moving the camera around, and you realize that this was actually a 3D prototype. It was not two-dimensional sprites that you were controlling. Almost like a Game.Heroes kind of thing going on with it. So I thought that was really neat. But it seems like this developer, Winter Drake, just went ahead and I don't know if it was recreated, pixel for pixel or anything like that, or if he just got the idea. But he did say that if Nintendo ever did come after him and tell him to cease and desist, he would just change the characters around. And that is what he is going to do. He said that the game's going to live on, just with different characters now that Nintendo has, of course, come after him. So it's nice that there is recourse for people, but my feelings on this are really mixed, because I know Nintendo kind of has to do this, but sometimes I think that they really don't. Because we live in the world of the internet. We live in the world of sharing digital creations. My goodness, I was just going through probably how many thousands? There was about 14,000 different NES ROM files I was going through over the last 2 weeks to root out all of the unlicensed and licensed actual US games released. And it was very hard because there's a lot of ROM hacks out there. And I don't see Nintendo going after them. I mean, this guy wasn't making any money off of this thing. It was just being distributed freely. And I don't know, it seems like there's certain companies that either A, ignore it, like they don't care what you do if you're doing that, unless you're going to you are distributing it for a price and making money off of their intellectual property. I can understand that. But if you're not doing it, a lot of companies just don't care and they ignore you. Other companies will actually encourage it occasionally. Like we've seen this from both Capcom and Sega. I want to say that there was like a Mega Man X Street Fighter that started off as like just a ROM hack where you play a standard Mega Man game, but all of the robot masters were Street Fighter characters, and you would get their powers whenever you would beat them. Capcom made it into like an official non-official kind of game that they turned around and sold. So like there's ways of doing this, of kind of incorporating these new creative measures from people, but Nintendo is just not getting it.
Well, I think this dude actually did sell some.
Oh, did he?
Because one of the someone tweeted at him, and I guess they got a copy. And was like, so what happens to the copies we might have purchased? And then he said, I'm no longer legally able to distribute Breath of the NES, but any donations you made will be spent working on the game. And then the dude basically asked like the same thing, because I guess he like didn't get his answer. And then he said, the game isn't dead, I just won't be using Zelda characters. So it may have been like, if you donate money, you can get like a demo.
But see, that's kind of the difference. So like if he's asking for donations, like that's not the same thing as like, bam, here's the purchase price, $5 please to play the game. I know it's kind of like, it's kind of using like almost like a loophole to get money for something, but you can do that. Like I don't see the ethical issues with that, you know, just asking for, you know, donations to continue their work. And it's funny too, because I mean Zelda's not a completely original game. The original Zelda, you know, copied a lot of elements from a game on the Atari called, I think it was just called Adventure. And it was a maze game, and you had to get, you know, chalices and keys and avoid certain things, and you only played as Little Dot, but there's a lot of ideas that were taken from that game. So I don't know, they're kind of becoming like the Disney of the video game world.
Oh, let's not say that. I don't want to.
I'm sorry, but I can't think of anything else to really compare them to, because they're so like, anything that pops up that it seems like falls under their radar, they go after it.
But I can kind of see with this, because the dude was like, it may have been donations to just like help him make the game, but he was receiving money to work on a game that was kind of the title of the game they just released, using the same characters and a similar sprite work to like the original Legend of Zelda game. Like,
so, but why can't Nintendo work something out with him where they're getting money for it? Other companies have figured out how to do that. Why can't Nintendo do it? It just seems like they're stuck permanently in the 1990s, and they just don't understand how new media works. It's the same thing with YouTube. Oh, you're making money off of our, you know, intellectual property. Well, I'm also promoting it too. Yeah, well, we don't like that. We need 40% of your revenue. It's kind of, I don't know. It seems like if every gaming company was doing this, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it. But it just seems like Microsoft, Sony, they don't care. Sega, Capcom kind of embraces it. Nintendo is like, no, this is our stuff. You can't use it ever for anything.
Like I understand and I see your point, especially for the another Metroid 2 remake, yeah. And then Pokemon Uranium. Like, yeah, for those things, I'd like just let them exist. Like, I don't know if Nintendo knows how many different ROM hacks of like Pokemon.
Pokemon, I know Uranium for a fact did not sell it. They were simply the problem with that was it was on a website which had advertisements,
which is hilarious because I may or may not have several different types of like different Pokemon ROM games that I've gotten from like different websites. Yeah, and like some of them have like new like Pokemon sprites, some of them have like similar sprites. It just makes it's either like harder or I can like randomize it. Some of them are like completely new. It's almost just like Uranium where it's like a new story, new region. Mm-hmm. But it's like none of those ever get like no one who made those gets attacked. But Pokemon Uranium happened to look kind of cool, and it was like I think it was all like original.
It was and it was popularity too. I mean, just the fact that that was like the most famous. I don't know if you want to call it a ROM hack at this point, but it was just had so much original material because it used Pokemon that actually are in Pokemon games. They came down on them. it is nice that there is a way around this. There is, you just change characters and you're all set at that point. But it does it. I'm gonna make it, this is not my best analogy. It's almost like the guy getting dragged off the Delta flight. It just doesn't look good. He might have been, flailing. He might have been causing a scene, but you bashed his head into the seat as he was bleeding from his face. It doesn't look good. And that's kind of like every time I see these stories, it's kind of like one of those incidents for Nintendo. It doesn't look good, Nintendo, when you kind of give an indie developer a bit of a bloody nose just because, heaven forbid, they use Mario or Link in a game. It's just irritating.
But then you also kind of think about it. This dude already had a plan in case Nintendo came after him.
Well, sure, because they're infamous for it.
I was like, if you knew they were going to come after you, just do the original sprite work.
Well, and I mean, there might have been some strategy there on his part, because how did he get recognition? Well, he took their concept, their prototype, and recreated it, and everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people knew about that prototype. So just by doing that, he got a lot of, attention just from being like, hey, here's that prototype they're talking about. Enjoy. And now that he has that fan base, I'm sure he'll do fine. So it kind of did work out for him in the long run. But I just think it makes Nintendo kind of look like a bit of a corporate bully when they do something like this, instead of finding another way, kind of like the Delta flight. Like, there were about 5 better options you could have gone with this, instead of just saying get off the flight, or in this case, stop distributing this game.
I don't know. I think brute force is a really good way to promote your business.
Fly the unfriendly skies.
Yeah.
I love the memes that came from that, by the way. Classic. Internet was running on all cylinders with those. But yeah, Nintendo, I can see your point. Like, I really don't want people just, I want people to be original. I really do. As much as I may not like it, I can understand, like Shovel Knight. It's easy to see where Shovel Knight takes its inspirations from. It's, my thing is, he's Shovel Knight. He's a knight that uses a shovel. You took his sword away. You kind of took away every cool thing about a knight by doing that. So,
but it makes him so much cooler.
A shovel is not cooler than a sword.
Well, have you ever? I don't know, the type of monk they were, but somewhere in Asia, there's there were monks back in early Asian period with dynasties were still ruling
forming over. Okay.
Monks, traveling monks, would carry these weapons that also acted as a shovel. It had a rounded blade, and they would use it to defend themselves. But if they also came across a dead traveler or someone who may have been ambushed, they would dig a grave for that person using their weapon, and then do a small little prayer, and then they'd walk on.
Yeah, pitchforks are effective weapons too. That doesn't make them cool.
Okay, well, when you can bounce on things.
Yeah, I remember when I bounced on a shovel once.
Yeah, dude.
It didn't bounce.
You're just as bad as Aaron. I can't talk about video. Aaron is one of the most annoying people to talk about video games with, because he gets so realistic when he's it's not realistic. It's a video game.
It doesn't have to be.
It's not supposed to be realistic.
No,
shut your mouth.
No, it's just, to me, it's kind of, it's just, no.
Well, you look at its inspiration, DuckTales. 100-year-old duck.
I love DuckTales.
It's just a 100-year-old duck bouncing on his cane. You can't bounce on a cane.
Scrooge McDuck has character, okay?
That's because he is a character.
Yeah, and he talks with a thick Scottish accent. What kind of accent does Shovel Knight have, huh?
He's chivalrous. Chivalrous.
It's as bad as the voiceover on Ukulele.
Did that classic banjo.